Be kind to the bee kind before they be gone. Be kind to the bee kind before they be gone. 'Cause if you ain't kind to the bee kind, they will be gone, and we won't be far behind. Who was there when it all began? It'd be the bees. 65 million years they've walked this land. It'd be the bees. They keep the vegetation thriving. They're the key to our surviving. Yeah. So you better be kind to the bee kind before they be.
Hello, my name is Laura Kelley, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We are actually in a studio in Eastham. We're here, hanging out, having discussions about something that's important to all of us who live here on Cape Cod, our drinking water. It's really big in topic these days, and television and newspapers. There's many articles going on, and we just wanted to bring it into your homes and share with you what's happening in our own backyards. So hello, I'm Laura Kelley. I live in Eastham, and I'm an organic land care provider. Littlefield Landscapes is my business, and I love to design on the land. And with me today is my friend, dear friend, and guest, Brian O'Malley. Thank you for coming.
Well, it's a pleasure, Laura. You're welcome.
Together we have a very mutual interest in preserving our drinking water here on Cape Cod. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about you to start off?
Well, Laura, as you know, I'm an internist, a primary care physician who has worked and cared for the Outer Cape community for 35 years.
Yay.
I'm also, however, what I would call a community health activist. And in that role, I have been a trustee for Cape Cod Healthcare, and I'm still on the Community Health Committee. I founded the notion of the organization Cape Care, which for a decade or so was involved in trying to formulate a model for a community-owned and operated health plan.
Beautiful.
And to me, a driving principle has always been preserve health, protect health, do preventive kinds of medicine. You know, that's always going to be a better bet than trying to treat illness after it develops. So I think this effort to protect our water is really right up that same alley of, keeping us healthy.
Yeah, it's mandatory. Now you reside in Provincetown, and do you practice there as well?
I live and work in Provincetown. Yep. Raised the family there.
Yeah, great. So together we have combined these interests and created POCA. That's POCCA, CapeCod.org, an organization that focuses on educating people, residents, businesses, homeowners, visitors, how we can protect our drinking water. What can we do every single day to, preserve the source of life? Water is the source of life. Without water, where do we go?
That's really true. That's a very fundamental concept. Water is absolutely at the source of life. I comment that when we look elsewhere in the universe for where might there be life, what's the signature we're looking for is water.
H2O.
What is the driver for where civilization has settled everywhere on the planet, where it has access to good water?
Right.
So clearly that gets to it.
Yeah, absolutely. POCA is, our mission is to educate, and currently we'd like to let you know what's going on that we're mainly focusing on these days. And once it's over, we will get back to the drawing board. And what I really want to do is, create a space where people can come and offer, I call it ingredients, recipes of all natural, non-toxic remedies to clean your home, to clean your bodies, and to clean your landscapes. Because as we all know, anything that goes down our drains anything that goes onto our land, we will consume one way, shape, form, or another. So that's the big picture, is that we are all impacting our drinking water, and that we need to, kind of think about lessening our impact, because we don't know where the tipping point is. Our population grows and products keep coming here, and so I know that we all can do, maybe just a little bit more, and it could make a big difference.
That's right. I think for the last half of the 20th century, we were in a rush to innovate and explore new ways that chemistry could make our lives easier and cleaner and safer and better and faster and more convenient. And we did that without really understanding an awful lot about what we were doing. And in those days, we always used to think dilution was the solution to pollution. And it has really become clear to us that, that the oceans are not infinite, the atmosphere is not infinite. What we pour into them both is there and has come around to bite us.
And the big question is, what are these products doing when they mix together? What is their synergistic response? We don't know. We just don't know. We are continuing to, add to the mix without knowing where the tipping point is, and it's really, having some forethought of 10 years down the line, unsustainable. And so POCA is focusing on how to create sustainable situations. And so please check us out online at POCCACapeCod.org. So do you want to, let's actually bring up a whole nother topic here.
Let's talk about pest herbicides.
Yeah, I was going to say that our current focus right now is what's going on with our utility, NSTAR. They're planning on spraying herbicides, 5 different herbicides. Some together, some not together, all different combinations, they say, plus a petroleum-based surfactant along 150 miles of power lines starting on November 4th. So the comment period right now is until November 1st. Again, you can see that on POCA, CapeCod.org. And so what we're doing is educating people, what does that mean? What does that actually, is it necessary? Are there other alternative solutions that won't be so harmful? And so I think that the answer is absolutely yes, and that we haven't even had room to discuss this. It's been 4 years, and we have had moratoriums each year for 4 years, and those were YOPs, the yearly operational plan. As of August 1st this year, it's the VMP, the Vegetation Management Program, which lasts 5 years. So it's kind of a different ball game now. We have we can't do yearly. This is for the 5 years. So it's really up to us to keep pressure on NSTAR, to continue to educate NSTAR, giving facts, giving concerns and reasons why we don't want them to use what I call heaviest artillery. It's like taking a bomb to kill a little mosquito. It's just so unnecessary. They could go back to mowing. Goats, I've spoke about goats many forums, yet they haven't changed one word in their VMP plan at all. Do you have a favorite solution for this?
Well, I'm not sure that I know the right answer, but I certainly think that despite their their calming, reassuring answers that these products have been tested for safety, I think the realities of what I understand speak to a very different reality. I mean, number one, these are poisons. There's no two ways around it. There's no dispute about this, that these are poisons. Right. They are intended to kill living organisms, in general plants, but there is a reality of cell cycle, of cell chemistry, that there's huge overlaps all across the spectrum, that poisons are essentially relative. When we treat disease, when we treat with antibiotics, when we treat with chemotherapy, we're always looking to exploit sort of marginal differences in susceptibility from one cell or a bacterium to another, but they are relative. These are poisons. And I know as an organic gardener that the top inches to feet of the soil is a very, very rich, diversified living community in which the role of soil bacteria and fungi is absolutely essential. They feed off the plants and bring nutrition to the plants. So that when you start impacting this community of organisms, we have no real idea what we're doing.
Right.
We're essentially poisoning the top layer of the soil, and that's what gives it its life.
No.
That can't make any sense to me. And then there's the secondary reality for us here on the Cape, and that is we're a sandy soil. We have perk rates that are on the rate of inches per minute.
Right.
Our water table is several feet below the surface. I mean, a lot of times Title V systems can't be built because you're close to the water table. So when we're talking about applying poisons to the soil surface, they are in our water table in no time flat.
Yeah, I agree.
And we drink that water.
Yeah, there's been no testing done on this by NSTAR or any other, third party, let's say, and there's been no testing of the combination of these 5 different herbicides together. The testing that has been done is them separately 30 years ago, and results are from the manufacturer themselves.
That's right.
So that is what the state is relying on here in this situation, and that's not okay. That is not okay with me. That's what drives me to do this. And so what I've done is I've gone to every single Cape Cod Board of Selectmen in every single town. I kind of created a little goal for myself in a month's time to call them, to send them an email of a special request for them to write a document in their own words stating why they don't want NSTAR to spray herbicides in our power lines to maintain vegetation overgrowth. And I'll tell you, 14 out of 15 towns.
So far.
That's right. But then the other one is just due to time. At this point, have our backs. They're really standing up for us and doing the right thing, protecting us. So I'd love to read a couple of quotes, if I may, because they're really heartfelt and they're strong words and they make sense. So I'm actually going to list the towns. This is the town of Eastham, who says, "We appreciate your considering and acting in accordance with the fact that the whole Cape shares a water resource. What is done in one area affects us all. Please do not use herbicides. A risk-adverse groundwater impacts. Environmental damage is not easily undone." I thought that was just heroic. Thank you. It's loud and clear. This is Yarmouth. Beautiful. The town of Yarmouth recognizes that herbicide treatment can be less expensive in the short term. However, the use of herbicides to control vegetation overgrowth along rights of ways on Cape Cod is an unnecessary risk for public health and the environment. The short-term financial benefits are far outweighed by the long-term liability for risks posed to precious drinking water, the health of Cape Cod communities, and the safety of workers. Big deal. This is the town of Brewster. Bless you guys, first town to step up on all of this, just heroic. The fact that we must repeatedly argue the merits protecting the public's health, safety, and welfare, in this case against NSTAR's private convenience, is baffling and appalling. Bravo. NSTAR has many other practical options for vegetation management without repeatedly poisoning the ground and water. For many years, property owners and residents of Brewster have actually maintained vegetation adjacent to homes and gardens to levels consistent with NSTAR's needs and desires without use of pesticides. We have had citizens approach us requesting permission from us to raise crops and graze livestock within NSTAR's rights of ways. It breaks our hearts that we cannot authorize these uses. These agricultural uses of property, of poorly managed, to restrict pesticides and compost manure could be hugely productive and have positive economic impacts. the idea of bringing hundreds of thousands of acres across the state and possibly the nation to active production for agriculture, energy could excite the DAR, or the DOER. This is just great. The thought of laying these potentially productive lands to waste for years and possibly permanently should not just alarm our citizens, but also our government. Now that awareness has been raised and debated for 4 years, we feel it incumbent that our legislatures and policymakers to stop this waste and destruction. Please do everything in your power to permanently eliminate the broad-scale use of herbicides. It goes on and on and on, but it's about vegetation management practices. So please make efforts to change policies. Thank you, Brewster, very much. The town of Dennis, this is what you were relating to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're to maintain vegetation, which is above ground, not harm what is below ground, which then trickles where we don't know. And because we don't know, why is this allowed? Because we don't know, shouldn't we advocate the precautionary principle? Like, that's where I'm at. You know, if you can prove it right, then that's a whole nother topic. We haven't done anything except, you know, said the state says so, so we can. Well, I realize that in our own local garden centers and, you know, hardware stores or whatever, there are herbicides and pesticides that we can get our hands on. But, you know, I keep asking NSTAR.
Doesn't make it right to use them.
I know. I keep asking NSTAR to be the leaders,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and then
right.
they would be looked up to
Right.
as, you know, heroes in a way, you
That's
know.
right.
So we've got to keep trying to educate ourselves as well. We just don't know where this mix goes.
Yes, I think the Dennis selectmen
Oh, yes.
correctly recognized the living nature of the soil and the
Yeah.
and the risks we take in chancing it by poisoning it.
I know, what a shame, huh? The top few inches of soil on Cape Cod is living, breathing, a life-sustaining, living soil responsible for filtering our entire water supply on Cape Cod. Law, of course.
Hello? Right.
Common sense, right?
Right.
I think gravity just happens.
You know, you're talking about these chemicals having been approved long ago, and I can't help but be reminded of how in my work, on a day-to-day basis, when I give prescriptions, what I'm looking for is the known interactions that are ever increasing, ever more brought to our attention between one medication and another. The complexity of one medication and another and another and another and another is beyond what we even study for our own
Yeah.
the drugs we take into ourselves. We don't begin to know what those interactions are. So that when you apply multiple herbicides concomitantly, we just don't begin to know what that's doing to the plants, to the animals that are exposed to it, to the soil biology, and in fact, to us. It's the case in pharmacology, for instance, that although it's the case that many times what we take is metabolized into the active substance or more active substances or inactive ones for that matter. It can go any direction. But it's the metabolites that oftentimes are in fact the active form. We don't know about that. They don't begin to know really what the downstream effects are going to be. And you know, when you articulate the precautionary principle, that really would mean you have to evaluate the potential risk, even if you don't know them all, and say, if there are risks on this side, and they can be mitigated by using non-chemical means of doing this,
Why
by
wouldn't you?
planting cover crops or grazing goats or cutting it with
Can
tools.
I tell you my first choice?
You know, do it.
Can I tell you my first choice? So you can visualize them going down the power lines, right? What they're going to do is a backpack sprayer with a handgun on selective plants along the power lines.
Right.
Some acres, let's say, there's going to be a couple plants. Other acres, it's going to be the whole thing if it's the, you know, vegetation that's going to be overgrowing.
Yeah.
So the same visual, backpack, sprayer, gun, radiant heat weeding.
Right.
So this isn't a flame. Okay, so no fear here, although every time I bring it up with NSTAR, they just laugh at me. And I'm like, well, if you can visualize this. I know I use it in garden, for accounts in driveways and walkways. There's just like little kills weeds. Oh, I'll burn them. Heat, not burn. No flame. And it's the same thing. You can target the plant and it'll break down and ash, and it then becomes food for the microorganisms in the soil. It's alkaline loving. I'm telling you, there are things out there. There's stuff we can do that just aren't even being talked about.
Well, there you are. You're using the very water because you heat it up enough that the water expands and it ruptures the cells. And
there you go.
Turn it around,
doctor.
Yeah.
So you're right. Now, I have been relying on a science lab that will be on POCCA right on the right-hand side column. It's France. For the last 2 years, they have done wonderful studies on one of the drugs that NSTAR plans on spraying called glyphosate, which is commonly known as Roundup. Now, what they're proving, this blows my mind, is that glyphosate, when mixed with another chemical, becomes so much more harmful than by itself. So this is proving what you're talking about. So what does that mean? Okay, so I always answer questions with questions. I'm one of those. Why? I was one of those kids. So there is somebody using Roundup, right? And that's one thing by itself. Right. Apply it, kills the plant. Great, happy day. There's somebody with a backpack sprayer mixing imazapar, trichophor, and glyphosate together, okay, going and spraying. What is that doing? That's killing the plant cell, which is what it's made for. Anything that ends in CIDES is made to kill and will do so. Glyphosate, imazapar, trichophor mixed together kills the plant cell and is proven to kill animal cells and is proven to kill human cells as well. So this is where we're at. What's going on is science and our laws are not keeping up with our reality. So where do we draw this line? Do we still rely on 30-year-old data by the manufacturer themselves? Or do we step out and say, hey, wait a second, we don't really know what we're doing here. Please just, let's have another moratorium because we only have a couple days left. That's where I'm at.
It seems to me there's an issue here that even transcends the issue about the science and the poison, and it is about the ability of the community to regulate itself. When 14 out of the 15 towns so far, we're just waiting for the last one, have signed on to this, it reminds me of exactly the case with the Pilgrim Nuclear Station, where every town in the Cape has voted to ask Pilgrim Nuclear Station to be closed. And what we run up against is essentially the power of the corporate form to do what it wants, despite the clear evidence from the citizenry of this doesn't meet our needs. It threatens us, it threatens our health, it threatens our safety. To me, that's really a big issue.
It's a big deal.
Where does the community have its voice, and how is it that this corporate person model is so much more powerful than all of us put together?
We have over 3,500 signatures against this. We have all 14 Cape Cod town selectmen against us. We have a lot backing. We have our senators, state representatives, and I just want to say we only have a couple minutes left. I wanted to read the environmental policy by NSTAR themselves, saying things like continually seeking opportunities to prevent or reduce pollution, conserve natural resources, and use eco-friendly products and services. So we do so for Cape Cod because we have an aquifer that is below us. We should be exempt from all herbicidal applications and be treated as a unique environment because that's what we are. We're not the rest of Massachusetts. We're drinking it and we don't even know. So do you have any other final quick words to say?
I think you've summed it up pretty well. This is a clear case of a very well-defined risk. These are poisons. We're putting them in water. That's what we're going to be drinking days from now.
So do all you can. Please go to POCCA, There are many things for you to do that are really, really easy. You can actually click and paste and send to the MDAR, to NSTAR, to state representatives, et cetera, et cetera. It only takes a couple seconds to do, and it really makes a difference right now. And even after the fact, continuing to educate them until they actually change the wording in their VMP and shift to another alternative. We really got to kind of come together as a community, like you said, and work on this, because we have to get involved, because we live here. You know, why wouldn't you? You know, that's the way I like to get involved, because you live here. It's up to us. We're the stewards of Cape Cod, and if we don't, corporations are going to come in, and they're, you know, Nestle could take water from our own aquifer, bottle it, and then sell it back to us. We don't want these things to happen, and so if we, you know, kind of come together and figure things out, I really think that we can find ways to protect our natural resources here on Cape Cod. So thank you very much for coming here and joining me.
And thank you for doing all that you do.
Yeah, well, I just want to drink the water on Cape Cod, okay? I have motivation.
Well,
it's real simple.
On behalf of all the rest of us, thank you.
Well, here, cheers to our drinking water. Thanks for joining us today at LCTV, and please tune in again and do all you can to help the situation. Thanks for sharing with all your loved ones as well. Cheers. Cheers to our drinking water.
Be kind to the be kind before they be gone. Be kind to the be kind before they be gone. 'Cause if you ain't kind to the be kind, they will be gone, and we won't be far behind. Who was there when it all began? It 65 million years they've walked this line.